Hello again, everyone. It's good to have you with us for this event. It figures to be an exceptional one that doesn't need any build-up.
Are you ready?
Okay, shall we get rocking and rolling here on Overtime with Coach Blue and Athletic Director Marissa?
Yeah.
Two of the faces here on Team Addict Athlete, right?
Yes.
Two of many. Lots of volunteers. We should probably give a shout out and thanks to all of our volunteers, all of our coaches and our team captains and our participants.
Yeah, we have a lot of them.
Wouldn't have any Addict Athlete without any of those guys, gals. So thank you, everyone. Hey, guess what? We got lots of stuff coming up. So much stuff. I mean, this calendar season has been intense.
Yeah.
And we just keep adding to it, which is kind of hilarious. We have decided to put on a softball tournament.
Yes.
And Coach Jensen thought, I know a novel idea. Let's do it the exact same day at the exact same time as our 5K.
Because if we're working hard, might as well double the work and get
Might
it
as well
done in
double
one
it up.
day, he said.
Yeah. And so, Coach, he may pull a fast one over on most people, but the guy's got grandiose thinking that somehow kind of works out. So Coach Jensen and Coach Barricall down there in St. George and let's see, Coach Shantae,
Yep.
and a few of the Sisters of the Moon, amazing organization. They are putting together the Addict Athlete first annual softball tournament to be happening on September 9th.
Yes.
2023. Registration's open.
And registrations, we are doing 16 teams, 10 lower, 6 upper. We're doing the co-ed, so it's 7 men, at least minimum 3 women.
Yeah.
Guaranteed 3 games. Double elimination, and we already have like 5 or 6 teams already signed up. So if you want to get signed up, signing up, an official payment is due August 12th,
Yeah.
and it's $350 for your team. You get a unique, amazing team jersey. Each team will have their own.
I wish we could share it with the listeners and describe it. It's an amazing jersey.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I've never been a fan of like the softball jerseys. They're so loud and obnoxious. I think that I have to like repent and apologize because this one, Judy has, our coach Judy down there. She designed it. And I'm like, I'm a believer in it again.
I really like it.
I'm really liking this. And I think there's an opportunity to do a different color so that each team can have a different color, which I kind of want one of each now. So that's going to probably put us in bankruptcy court, but kind of a cool thing. So yeah, free your jersey, you get the 3-game minimum. We're doing it for National Recovery Month, kind of just to kind of remember that this month should be, I guess, donated and spent in the avenues of recovery and those who struggle with mental health issues and things of that nature. And what a great way to kind of what we call erase and replace by coming out and, living out loud, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the point. National Recovery Month is set aside to celebrate those in recovery from mental health and addiction, to be able to bring out awareness, but it's also in remembrance of those who still struggle and those who've passed on.
Yeah.
So if you come and play, you can choose to have the name of somebody you're playing for or in memory of on your back. You can have your own name. You can have your team name. So they're even customizable, and it's going to be in Spanish Fork, Utah, September 9th.
Yeah. So come run the 5K, then run directly over to the baseball diamond and just spend the entire day with us because it's going to be a festivity.
Yes.
But speaking of that 5K, registration is now open for the 2023 annual 5K. This is the proxy run. We call it the recovery run, the healing run, so to speak. This is an amazing little jog that you'll be able to take in an amazing, beautiful location. Spanish Fork, Utah has treated us so well with this little course we've got designed.
Their river trail is just beautiful. There's towards the end of it is our memory grove, which kind of runs through these trees that have just grown over the path right next to the river. We do it as a quiet, silent section of the run. We have pictures of those who've passed on, and it's just a real touching experience.
I've seen people, we have video proof that have felt so overwhelmed with just emotion that they've stopped and took a knee and prayed in the middle of that thing.
Yeah.
If you have a loved one that you'd like us to run proxy for, if you'd like us to, commemorate them through their pictures, to put them on our memory grove so that they're not forgotten, so that we can get to know your loved one that may have struggled. Who do they get in touch with to submit these photos, and by when?
It's Liz, and I think it is August 15th.
So Liz is at LIZZ at addicttoathlete.org.
At addictathlete.org. We have, if you have submitted in previous years, we have those pictures already.
Yep.
And I've received at least one. I don't know if Liz has received some for this year that we can get done. We are also collecting raffle items for the softball tournament that will be raffled. And then we have an online silent auction that we will be doing. So if you have anything that you're willing to donate, maybe something you're talented at, some arts, crafts that you create, or you own a business and you want to donate like a free gift card to that business, we would absolutely love it. So that we can put it together to raise some extra funds.
Absolutely. And all funds that are raised on this run go into Addict to Athlete, but also specifically go into our upcoming, Project ELF as well.
Yeah.
And so realistically, the feeling and the magnitude that you'll have simply by submitting maybe a raffle item or coming out to participate in the run, I want you to pay particular attention through the remainder of the season, because you'll feel the magnitude of what that donation looks like. We'd love for you guys to come out and be part of all that. But anyway, registration is open, addicttoathlete.org underneath races tab. If you own a business and you wouldn't mind us swinging by to throw up a sign, maybe to put up there with a little QR code to make things easier for your patrons, that'd be great too.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to help this. And we're going to dive into some of this stuff here in a minute and talk about why it's so important that us as a community utilize grassroots type techniques, because we need your help. And I want your perspective on this, Marissa. You're kind of coming into this a little bit cold, which is cool, because then you can't formulate the politically correct response. I get to get it right off the cuff.
Oh.
But before we do that too, I remember registration's open, addicttoathlete.org underneath the race tab there. But also, we want to give thanks and shout outs to our Patreons. These are those who are making this podcast possible. So every time you download and listen to one of these podcasts, you got to give our patrons a thanks too.
Yeah.
But do you have that list so we can celebrate these absolute champions?
I do. So we will start at the top this time with our champion
Let's
level.
go.
And that is Shad and Freya Robinson and Andrew Baird. Thank you guys. You guys really do so much. And we couldn't do any of this without them.
I'm excited to go down to the Beaver half and full marathon a week after we get back from cycling down there, and run with the Robinsons, and that's a run I did last year with Andrew. So yeah.
So then we have our pro level. It's Justin Robbins. Thank you, Justin. Our rookies are Sherry Polson, Earl Dyer, Wendell Wood, Brad Waldron, Ronna D. Loesch, and Sione and Mary Unuk.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And then our super fans, Karen Hardy, Steve Riggs, Jerem Thurston, Tara Butson, Holly Davies, Scott Foster, Brett Frew, Chris Williams, Sensei KP Brown, Patrick Forsyth, Brock Ellerman, and Christy Case.
Guys, thank you all so much. What a great core of people right there.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys so much.
Absolutely. So if you want to become one of our Patreon subscribers to open yourself up to extravagant bonus material and some perks and some merchandise, jump on patreon.com/addicttoathlete. You get all of our backlogged stuff that we have. We have a recovery playbook that's up, and soon to be launching the video series there as well. You guys are going to get exclusive playbook videos that you'll be able to utilize. And you know what? Utilize them for your own recovery, through mental health, trauma, addiction. These principles that we've kind of produced here on Team Addict Athlete, they're very unique to our program. And, we're not a 12-step program. We've kind of created this from ground zero, from scratch. And you guys are going to get all of our videos to start going through the playbooks. You've got the audio, now you got the video. There's no reason why you can't utilize these for your own benefit, your own mental health, and your own recovery.
And there's other bonus episodes. We've been doing this now for a few years with Patreon. And once you become a Patreon, you can go back and listen to everything.
Yeah, you can.
So please go back and listen. There's some great content there that you only get and receive as a Patreon.
Absolutely. So, with that, Marissa, as we get prepared now to do the Saint to Sinner bike race, I'm excited to have a bunch of folks come down from south of the border. We're going to come from folks from Arizona, Brock and Jerry. Brock from Victor Recovery, Agents of Recovery podcast.
Yeah.
They're going to come up and we're going to do this amazing bike ride. We're going to do it with proxy bibs. So we're going to carry the names of some of those that have lost their battle to addiction, and really kind of show the public at large how important this issue is. And, this is one of those things where I've been noticing a lot more media attention, a lot more social media kind of light spread on the epidemic that still is the addiction problem in this country.
Yeah.
Many of you many of you are lucky enough not to be in a situation or location where it is so blatantly obvious. But when you start looking a little bit, behind the curtain, so to speak, you'll start seeing that in the inner cities and some of the larger populations, in some locations like Arizona, Phoenix, where weather is kind of conducive to 24/7 all year round outdoors living.
Yeah.
You'll start seeing that we have an incredibly challenging issue ahead of us, which is really tackling this epidemic of addiction. We're seeing fentanyl use skyrocket. We're seeing overdose rates increasing, and there's not a lot going on. Yesterday, it was kind of an interesting thing. I was in here, flirting with the old, podcasting stuff, trying to get ready to drop the bonus material. And I caught a live video of the White House and President Joe Biden presenting some much needed reform to the way that insurance companies approach mental health and addiction. And it was kind of an interesting thing, Marissa, because I talked about this last night in the meeting a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't know too much about this, but I was kind of blown away by it because it was unexpected. I mean, you and I have talked about the need for reform to come in shapes of insurance companies being willing to pay for outpatient services, therapy services, residential if needed, things of that nature. And the scary thing is it can be a very costly thing.
Yeah.
So when I caught wind of this, I was kind of blown away that this was kind of out of the blue. And I'm like, I didn't hear anything about it beforehand. Have you heard anything about this yet? Like, have you heard much about what he's proposing?
No, I haven't heard a thing.
So it was interesting. At first, when I caught on, it was some lady that was introducing the first little speaker, and she was kind of talking about why she brought this to the attention of her own local government and her own Congress, and her state government, because she had a daughter that was struggling with severe depression. I think eating disorders and things of that nature. Yep. And it got so bad that there was, suicidal ideation. There was a chance that she might lose her daughter. Mm-hmm. She went in, got an evaluation, and found out that the therapist that really kind of clicked with this gal wasn't in network. And so the therapist said to this family, I will go get paneled with this insurance company so that I can help you, because, anywhere else that the therapists that were on this panel, that this insurance company, was paneled with, they had waiting lists up to 2 months.
Oh, geez.
So can you imagine like just sitting around waiting for 2 months just to come in and talk to a therapist about what's going on inside your heart?
Yeah, that sometimes you don't have that long.
And then so the therapist goes and starts to, attempt to get paneled. And what do you think she bumped into?
All the nightmare I've been dealing with.
Oh my goodness. Our panel's closed. You have to do this. There's a hoop here you have to jump through. We're not, and then you do all those things. Then we're not taking new prescribers. It was an absolute nightmare. You've bumped into it where we have 15 different websites with 20 different numbers with 90 different people you have to go into.
For each individual insurance. So I've been trying to get you paneled. Right now we have 2 that we're paneled with, but there's all these different departments that are in all different states. They can't just transfer my phone call. And if I don't get this one first and then this one second, then I'm stuck in the loop. And I finally got one covered, and they said I need to log in and see what our online payments are. And I go to log in, and they're like, you don't have access to the login. Mm-hmm. Okay, so request access. And then it's been like 3 weeks. And so I call, and they're like, well, it's 7 to 14 days. Well, it's been 3 weeks. Oh, okay, well, let me send it. And 5 minutes later, I have it. Why would it take 3 weeks or less than 5 minutes on an email? Like,
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
See, and I don't know if it's designed that way to make people throw in the towel, or if it really has become so intricate that it's buggered up the system.
I think it's both. Yeah, absolutely.
But yesterday when I was watching this, and it was on a social media account, so I think it was like, believe it or not, it was like Yahoo News. I had no idea that was even still a thing. I didn't know Yahoo was still around. But basically, now there's 2 parts to this, listeners. The first part was, I was blown away by the fact that the leader of the nation was talking about this issue, because whenever there's gun violence, whenever there's this the siege of addiction, you hear everybody kind of pull the wagons around the concept that we need more access to mental health providers. Yet there's no access to mental health providers.
Yeah, there's
so it's
many
kind of
hoops.
interesting. They say, hey, we have school shootings. Let's gun violence. Let's get people into mental health. Let's do it. So people start looking into mental health. Oh, sorry, insurance blocks it.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't try and suppress this issue and then create. I mean, does it make sense? Like it's like, what are we doing?
And then they say, oh, they fell through the cracks. Well, the cracks are things that we have created.
Yeah.
The system.
Our best thinkers have created the cracks.
And that's where people keep falling through. But they're not just cracks. They are like Grand Canyon holes.
So the biggest concern I have, though, listeners, and I really, I'm going to do my best not to get on a soapbox because I'm kind of a blowhard at times. And I know this about me. But the thing that really, really, truly bothered me were the comments of the people that were watching alongside. It ended up that there was a couple thousand people that were watching this little, White House discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that the comments were based off of, oh my heck, I can't believe this is finally happening. What a great thing. Or do you think the comments were, Joe Biden's a criminal. Joe Biden's addicted to cocaine. Joe Biden, the horrible Trump 2025. That
has nothing to do with the content.
You guys kidding me?
Let's just listen to what he's saying. And is that a good thing?
Marissa, what has happened to our country? Like I was getting super upset because I'm like, as a healthcare provider, and having to take clients on pro bono because they can't afford therapy, even though they have, even though they have insurance, but I don't take it, but they're out of options. I'm seeing people like criticize the guy in charge.
Like anything to help.
Like, I'm sorry, if Trump would have got up here and been like, we're going to do this and this is going to happen, I've been like, let's go.
Yeah.
What's happened to it? This is why I don't think we're going to make it. And the reason why is because we have this very divided mindset these days.
Everyone's getting distracted by something other than.
I was watching today, listeners. I was watching today a House Senate kind of like forum on if UFOs are real today. Yeah. And there was more bipartisan conversations and more upbeat topics and more buy-in on if we see UFOs flying around than there was the need for mental health reform.
Yeah. It was very kind and respectful. I heard some sections. It was kind and respectful. Everyone I heard thanked everyone who was there. It didn't matter which side that they were on. Appreciated their courage to come and share things that have been withheld. Has there been problems in the past? Obviously, that's why they were having the issue now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like people were
cordial.
They were kind. They were looking at the content, the information, the facts, and what can we do about it.
But the comment section in that one was overwhelmingly supportive. So I thought, this is messed up that we are more in tune to see both sides of the aisle when it talks about UFOs than it is about getting the people that are here on this planet help.
Yeah.
Anyway, the White House pushes kind of a private insurance companies to start covering mental health care. And the Biden administration plans to, force private insurance companies to offer same coverage for mental health services as they do for physical health services.
Awesome.
That's going to start kind of hopefully filling in the gaps and closing the holes in the healthcare system. This is great news. This is really great news because the policy is part of a mental health care act that I'm hoping will go through. So, listeners, do a little bit of a deep dive in research. What we're talking about is that, there are times when you're trying to seek care, but before you can get into care, you have to get, a bunch of the other green lights. You got to get the physicians, and all these other things. So there's all these roadblocks, and then there's, the significant chance that they won't cover it at all, which means that there will be people that will have to literally go into bankruptcy to save the life of a family member.
Which has been happening already.
Yeah, and this isn't anything new. I mean, the reason why we started Addict to Athlete as a free community resource was because we felt that if you would invest yourself and you were willing enough to show up, that would have been enough motivation for you to say, I don't need to spend thousands of dollars on this. I can come here, build a team, build a support system, learn the addiction recovery education. If we need therapy, we can plan that out too. But to get you in a spot where if you truly want it, we can get it to you.
Whether anyone has resources or not, there's support, there's information, there's education to help.
Yeah.
Because it's just so out of the cost of anyone's budget to be able to really get really good access to mental health and addiction counseling and therapy.
Yeah. And so, there will always be a place by which we'll need inpatient treatment, or we'll need, residential care. But I think massive reform needs to be put into that as well. I mean, because my thing is if you're going to be dropping that kind of money, you need to see that kind of result. And trust me, I'm not saying that it has to, it can be guaranteed, because it depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
But there also has to be some boundaries and some limitations, and maybe even some ceilings on how much this stuff is going to cost. And insurance companies need to step up. That's what it's for. That's what it's designed for.
Yeah.
And so, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
And so, part of his plan I thought was interesting. And this is kind of funny too. This is, I think, a part where I started seeing everybody melt down when President Biden said, we have a moral obligation, in my view, to be there for each other.
Yeah.
And people, but how is that a statement that would put anyone in the crosshairs of that kind of like troll, comment? I mean, think about it. We have a moral obligation, in my view, to be there for each other. When did we stop caring about our fellow man? When did we stop caring about, extending that hand of fellowship or friendship? What happened to this country? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't get it, Marissa. And I'm like, it's kind of an interesting dilemma, because we can look at all these things that are happening in the bigger cities and think, well, thank heavens I live in Springville, Utah, and I don't have that there.
Yeah.
Well, we do have it here. It's just inside instead of outside.
Yeah.
But I'm bummed out with that. It says, to reach out to our neighbors in grief and in stress and trauma and despair, and reach out to them to offer help, or a listening ear, to have the courage to ask for help when they need it. And it's hard. Yeah, we know this.
Yeah.
But the people that were moaning and groaning about this simply because it was the man himself speaking, I thought, you guys,
you're missing the point.
You're missing the whole point. And it was really kind of like gut checking.
Well, and I know in a lot of situations like this, people look at it and think, it's too late, or it'll never come through.
I'm worried about that.
Talk. And I am too. Like, every time the government comes up with these ideas, it's all, but think about it. The United States government, anything, this organization alone in this country is humongous. To be able to get any funding, get things passed, and start trickling down to what you see in the day-to-day is going to take time. Naturally, there's no way it can ever go quickly, mostly to have correct checks and balances to make sure the money is being utilized correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take time. But let's think back to some of the things that have been passed. And maybe it took 10 years, but we're seeing some of those things now that are helping.
Yeah.
So being a naysayer or negative Nancy every single time isn't going to help the situation. Let's be glad it's here. Let's be glad it's changing, and we're doing something in time.
Well, and that's the thing too, is again, and I'm going to say this maybe for that population that really gets behind this about gun reform and things that, like, we don't, out of my cold dead hands kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone says it's mental health. It's not the gun, which is true.
Yeah.
So then why are you coming on here and pooping in the face of the administration that's trying to get you the help?
It's a mental health issue.
Because we're not just talking about addiction. We're talking about mental health services.
Yeah.
Because behind every addict is a mental health issue.
Yep.
Behind every person that goes into a school or a movie theater or in an open crowd, mental health issues.
Yeah. And is it the chicken or the egg? Was it the addiction or the mental health? Either or, they're both there.
Everyone should have been cheering like for a victory yesterday, but instead there's you found cocaine in the White House, blah blah blah. You guys, shut up. Like, can we not do that now? Let's start helping the people that are out there.
Yeah.
And if you don't care about it, then you're probably not listening to this podcast. But the other part about that is watch the media. It is heartbreaking to see what's happening here. To watch these folks that are walking down with their video cameras and showing people like hunched over, in death's grip, as you're stepping over bodies and needles and human feces and all this stuff. And we're thinking, well, I live in the suburbs, so I don't have to see it.
Yeah.
It's coming, and it's going to be hard.
Well, and with the way the economy is working, with housing prices, rental prices, it's outrageous. Homelessness is shooting through the roof, rampant. I saw a lady just last night in a neighboring town to us saying that, they've been living in like a tiny home at this KOA, and the city has now X'd any tiny homes. And so It's her and her kids. She works from home. She needs a separate room. She's like, I need a trailer or we will be homeless. Anyone have a trailer I can afford. They can't
Why
afford
would
to
the
get
city
into a
do
house.
that? Why would they do that?
I don't know.
Because someone complained and said,
I
"Hey,
don't know because they're there too long instead of over a weekend
oh
or
my
a week.
gosh, you guys,
But
man,
yeah, her and her kids are going to be homeless and she'll lose her job. Like, how do you do that? And she's like, and I can't afford. She's already put in like $800 in applications for apartments.
there's
And
that
those are
again."
just, we've
Mhm.
discussed that. Apartments are just, you apply and every single landlord takes 25 bucks, 35 bucks, 50 bucks, 100 bucks to run it. And there should be something that it's like a one-time thing. If you're a landlord, you go here, they've turned in the background check, whatever you need. And yeah, people are asking for 3 times the amount of income to rent.
Yeah.
That's never been a thing, let alone rent is so outrageous. Like no one can afford it. And homelessness is on the rise. And this isn't just people that deserved it. That infuriates me anyway.
Yeah.
But these are families, these are children. These are parents and children. Like both her and her husband are working and they will be homeless.
The new
Like,
situation I've seen with that is that a divorce has happened because of issues, trauma, abuse, what have you. And then the woman out with her children, how does she survive? Most
mhm,
people will stay in abusive relationships simply because they have to. They're trapped.
yeah, they have a roof
And
over their head and
yeah, and it doesn't have
mhm.
anything to do with addiction. But and Lord forbid you
But it
have
ends up creating a mental health issue
absolutely. But
100%.
Lord forbid you have some kind of blemish on your record because then you are screwed.
Yeah.
So this goes on to say that there was some stuff that was passed last year which was kind of great. At the same time the Biden administration began to put in about, it says, $1.7 billion into mental health funding by Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was signed last year. And we've seen some benefits from that, including programs of the mental health awareness, things that we've benefited from Addict Athlete, those kind of things. But we're still far behind the curve, specifically when it comes to that individualized treatment that we need. And it's something that we cannot just settle without. I mean, this is going to be a huge thing. But again, I thought it was interesting, Marissa, that more people were like down for the cause when it came to, are we really going to have aliens visit us versus should we help the people that are dying on the streets? It was kind of an interesting paradigm.
Well, that reminds me, there is one thing, at least in Utah, I know some of this money has come from, it's called Safe Utah. It's a new app that provides like a way for you to be connected with licensed counselors. They're ready to listen and to any size problem, they support immediately. You can do it through a phone, you can send text messages, and it's free. If you go, I will post it in at least Facebook notes, but if you go to our website and you go under resources, there's a community partners, and I have links to all of these things. There's a lot of other places and programs that are starting in many different states, not just Utah, to be able to help. Like even just the 988 crisis line instead of a huge crisis number, to just get people connected, even if it's just something immediate, something now. Sometimes that's all you need, at least to just hold on.
So to inform you, the 3 policies that this has kind of been proposed to become is that there's got to be accountability with the data. The White House is trying to address the fact that there's not a lot of good data out there, or even clear definitions on how to track patients that are affected by insurance policies. So it hasn't been possible to hold insurance companies accountable. But under this new rule, the government will be requiring insurers to report the outcomes of their coverage, showing that they're offering patients equal access to medical and mental health care, which a little check and balance.
Yeah.
The next one is to attention to payments and policies. The rule says that insurers can't use techniques like prior authorizations to narrow networks, or to offer only a few therapists that ends up denying care. So it says insurers have to use similar ways of setting out-of-network payment rates for mental health care as they do with the medical care, because there's out-of-network with doctors.
Yeah.
Why not with mental health, right?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of an interesting thing. And the thing is with mental health is that it is interesting too. Like, you've got to choose the right doctor for that, but you've also got to choose the right therapist.
Yeah.
If a therapist isn't working and they're not connecting with you, you should have the right, the access to care, right? You should have the ability to say, I need to find it.
This one isn't working. I don't click with this therapist, because when you're opening yourself emotionally, when you're opening yourself and being vulnerable in that sense, it's a whole different thing than going to a doctor who's following a scientifically specific protocol to help you that every single doctor would use no matter what. Obviously, bedside manner goes into that, but the protocol and what they're doing is just based off a lot of research and science, and it just goes down this line of, okay, now we test for this and test for that. It's not the same thing with mental health therapy and counseling, and you have to be able to get along with that person. You have to be able to feel safe and trusted and feel like they understand you.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Expanding coverage by closing the loopholes. The original mental health, partly, the law kind of said that like local governments didn't have to comply, but they're saying, well, now you do because you're not really helping.
Yeah.
So updates to the law that changed this proposal meant that there was about 200 healthcare plans serving about 90,000 people. That's not enough. There's got to be more access to it. And so,
Yeah.
in the health industry, I mean, we've been involved in it now for years, and we see that there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
And my caseload can only get so big, obviously.
Yeah.
And
So only so many hours in a day.
absolutely. And so we need more help. We need to expand telehealth. We need to do all these kind of things.
We need more young people coming up and saying, I want to become a mental health therapist and getting trained, because there's a lot of people who have retired. There's a lot of people who are overly worked and overly stressed and have quit,
burn out,
or have burned out, have cut down their hours because they cannot carry the caseload. So we need new people stepping in.
Absolutely. And, again, this is one of those things where you may not be rich and wealthy, but you'll know that, you have that heart to serve. And so there's a lot of these kind of components that go into this, but I thought it was interesting. I wanted to share it with you because this is where you guys come in. This is where you speak to your local leaders. This is where you start, kind of pushing your insurance company. I mean, you're paying them lots of money to get services that they said they would provide. And so we do need this. I was just bummed by the way that it was received. And granted, most people jumped in the middle, saw him speaking, and immediately reacted. And I think those are the people that need mental health services. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If even the view of this person makes you that upset, you've got issues, right?
Something you need to talk to somebody
Absolutely.
about.
And when Trump came out and was talking about mental health care and trying to provide other substitutions for opiates and things of that nature, although it never really got moving because of the pandemic, I was all behind him on that too. I thought that'd be great to create medications that aren't addicted. Does that make sense? And so it doesn't matter if it's President Trump in there. It doesn't matter if it's President Biden. What matters is that it's going to benefit us, the citizens. But we got to get out of this tit for tat garbage. Like, we've got to find a path to get along, you guys. Like, because it's everyone out there listening has someone that struggles with addiction. Every one of you, which means that most of you, majority of you, are going to need services at one time. And if you bump into that and your healthcare provider doesn't offer services with people that could help, and it's your son or your daughter, you might have to start paying out of pocket, and that sucks because
you'll start caring. It sounds, but that's sometimes a little too late.
Absolutely. So you know what? And again, I thought it was just awesome that more people cared about aliens than they did about mental health care.
Right?
It's so funny. It was like the very next day. I'm like, isn't that interesting? But nonetheless, wanted to share that with you. Continue to follow the story. We'll put some links so you guys can read up on it and kind of get an idea what it is. I think we should take more care of ourselves and others. Family systems, guys, I know how hard it is sometimes. And when you don't have answers, it's super scary and challenging. And some of you guys have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and had pretty poor results.
Yeah.
Some of you guys spent that much money and had amazing results. So we need the dialogue to continue. And I'd love to be that reflecting board. Please comment, leave us some reviews, talk about what you guys are thinking.
Absolutely.
I'd love to get your perspectives on it. And kind of see what goes from there. But follow us this weekend. We're gonna have our social medias up. You can cheer on the team as we do the Saint to Sinners bike race. So we'll have all that live, so you guys
follow them. The satellite tracker and see where they're at.
Yep. Yeah.
As long as Jacob Bourne doesn't drop the tracker and break it.
Like last time. Yeah.
Well, he turned it off on accident. We didn't realize that. So
Should
no
just
one knew.
drove there.
Everyone
man,
thought we were stuck in Draper for
for like 3 days.
most of the time.
But yeah, nonetheless, check out addictathlete.org for all your information that you need on mental health services, what we do here on the team, our addiction recovery coaching program. If you'd like to become a coach, certified coach of Team Addict Athlete, information's on there. And yeah, until next time, turn your mess into your message.